It is the Tuesday edition of the SportsCage. Hello, Saskatchewan. I'm Dave Thomas, filling in for Barney Shankaruk. Pleased to be joined today by the professor himself, Mr. Don Hewitt, as we've got lots to discuss. CFL Free Agency open today. The little Olympic Games, I say little. The Olympic Games are happening over in Milano and Cortina, Italy. We'll check in with what's happening there with Team Canada. Not good if you're a women's hockey fan. Details on that coming up. Of course, we'll tune in and check in with Arash Madani, talk about Super Bowl 60 and his thoughts on the game, and Glen Suitor. He'll join us to weigh in on the CFL free agency window, whether it was a worthwhile exercise or not. They're coming up, plus the voice of the Saskatoon Blades, a guy that had to put up with me in the broadcast booth for 10 years. 10 years.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know it was that long.
Yeah.
And what a legend he is in Saskatoon.
Yeah.
And Saskatchewan, really.
Les Lazaruk will join us. 10 years. He's been talking to, I'm sure, psychologists on different coaches for a long time, because 10 years with the wind chill seemed like a long time for him. It's all coming up today on the SportsCage. Of course, you can join us on the text line anytime. If there's something you want to know, something you want to get off your chest, we want to hear about it at 306-936-6262. The text line is brought to you by Prairie Land Rentals. If you need it, they've got it. Check out and deal with the owners at 600 Albert Street. And of course, today, the SportsCage is brought to you by Saskatchewan Lotteries, bringing communities together. Saskatchewan Lottery products fund over 12,000 sport, culture, and recreation groups across Saskatchewan. We got all that out of the way. Now we can get down to talking sports. There's a thing in the CFL called free agency. You might have thought started February the 1st, but no. Today is the day where, as AJ Ouellette correctly informed me, today is not the day where you put pen to paper anymore. Now it's an e-doc you sign on your phone.
All right.
That he hates.
Technology. Nobody signs anything anymore actually with a pen.
No, right? So
it's changed. You know, what a farce, because they've got a so-called 8-day negotiation period, which should be just an 8-day signing period, not even an 8-day. They're all signing on the 1st. And then they have what's called a 48-hour cooling off period. Who's cooling off? I mean, maybe guys that weren't signed are cooling off.
Yeah. Nobody
else is cooling off. I think they have to make some changes. I mean, this is a system that the current commissioner, inherited.
Yes.
If you can say it like that. And I don't think he's going to be overly pleased, because in the information age, Dave, this doesn't work. Because I think Houston, as a defensive back, might be going to a different team than what was reported on the 1st of February. And then also, I don't think Mario Alford, you could maybe announce that signing where he went, but that wasn't sort of going around 10 days ago. But everything else is just falling in place that's been reported literally 10 days ago.
Well, and it was interesting that players were penning on social media, right? 'Tis 2026, their goodbye letters, right? Thank you. Mm-hmm. Again, AJ Allen put out a very nice statement, right? When he hadn't really officially signed with Ottawa just yet, which is interesting. But to bring Rider Nation up to speed, what has happened thus far is the Riders did sign a trio of prospect players today with some NFL and great NCAA pedigree. But then when it comes to, I don't want to say proven, but veteran CFL talent, you bring in defensive lineman James Vaughters, who spent last year with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. We've had a chance to see him from afar. He now joins the good side, if you will, of that rivalry. And I think bolsters the defensive line that kind of got beat up a little bit. As Habakkuk Baldonado, he, of course, departed, as did Malik Carney, two big players that can get to the quarterback in a hurry. Is James Vaughters, in your eyes, a guy that's going to help that?
Well, he led the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in sacks in the What Have You Done For Me Lately category, was 6. Last season. If James Vaughters got 6 sacks in Winnipeg last year, that would compute to about 11 or 12 in Saskatchewan this year, because for whatever reasons, the defensive brain trusts in Saskatchewan know how to get the quarterbacks like nobody else in this league. And so James Vaughters, a big star at Stanford, came to the Calgary Stampeders out of the NFL after a good NFL career, and was dominant in that Grey Cup victory with Calgary when his coach was Corey Mace, of course. Vaughters replacing Malik Carney, who's a different kind of player, but Carney, 3 Down Nation reporting, he made $270,000. He's going to make $270,000 a year. Just too rich for Saskatchewan's tastes. Again, the price you pay of winning a Grey Cup, and everybody wants the Grey Cup champion players on your team. Vaughters won't be making that. He'll be making a good salary, but he won't be making $270,000. So I think it's a really rock-solid move by Saskatchewan. I mean, he had a great regular season of Waters. I thought he had an average playoff game in Montreal, but a tremendous regular season. He's a different kind of player, Dave, than Carney in the sense that, and he's only 2 years older, not that big of a deal. He's more of a bruiser against the run or a right-in-your-face square-on tackler. Carney was more of a slasher.
Yes, I agree with that.
I thought, if you replace one with the other, I like the fact that they're bringing in maybe a slightly more physical defensive end. When you consider that Micah Johnson is no longer there at defensive tackle, I like the swap, and it's obviously a cheaper swap, and they've got lots of experience, and they've got a player that wants to play for Corey Mace, has done very well for Corey Mace, and again, going back to his pedigree, he had a longer, more fruitful NFL career, really, than Malik Carney did.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you get that pedigree, and you can't replace that championship, right? Which the championship mantra, if you will, right? Winners are winners. And there's a lot of check boxes that he ticks off. So the defensive line gets shored up there. But I don't think Rider Nation needs to think that the sky is falling when it comes to the defensive line. There's a lot of options. Now, Mike Rose is coming back.
What do they have? They've signed seven
so
already from the U.S. as free agents. 7 defensive linemen. Mm-hmm. That's a lot.
That's a lot. It's going to be an interesting watch. Like you mentioned to me, I can't wait to see what training camp looks like. You're right.
Yes.
Because there's guys that are going to get looks for sure. The one guy, and again, there's a lot of incumbents on the roster too, right? Like Ali Saad, for example. Right. He played interior defensive line. That was the first time in his life last year that he played on the inside. He said it was an entirely different game. I'm very curious because the Riders are very forthcoming. They say, hey, here's where we envision you playing. Lake Corte-Moore. We think that you're going to move back and maybe play a linebacker spot. Maybe that's where that's going to fit best for you. So they went ahead and made that adjustment last year. So it's interesting to see how Ollie's going to fit in. And then Aaron Patrick. What a standout NFL career. Comes up to Saskatchewan, and the guy is chiseled. Like, he takes care of his body and is ready to go. And the way he didn't have a lot of special teams tackles, if you look at it numerically and statistically. But what he was able to do on special teams absolutely caught the eyes of all of the coaches.
And he can cover ground.
Yeah.
He's made probably more for the CFL than he was in the NFL when he was playing for the Denver Broncos. So do you think right now, Dave, if you and Luke were at training camp, do you think Patrick, is he the odds-on bet for the other side of the defensive line from Waters? Do you think Patrick will have that job? Or do you think players like Marion or Lake Corte-Moore may be getting a shot at that spot because of the ratio situation?
That's just it. Where does the ratio fit in, right? As of right now, the Saskatchewan Roughriders don't have a Canadian kicker. So you're using that roster spot with an American. And again, you got to juggle things, and you don't have A.J. Allen all of a sudden, right, in your linebacking core.
Now, you got Jordan Kim and Michael Hughes, both very strong American kickers in the NCAA. Kim, of course, from Michigan State, just signed the other day. That's going to be interesting to see if they are seriously considering an American kicker or if this is a backup plan until the draft. Are they going to be looking for a kicker in the draft that's not an American, a global, or a Canadian? We don't know. But that's going to be very interesting because the Riders, I know you would agree with this, especially the last couple of years, they do think outside of the box. I think there's much of an outside-of-the-box thinking team as there is in the CFL. Nobody is going with American place kickers right now. Saskatchewan might be outside of the box. They might do it. But then there's a lot of other issues. They go back to a Canadian safety. Rivas, of course, is now, I think, officially signed with Ottawa.
Yes.
So they should be back. Lacombo, of course, re-signed. They got Ford there. If Josh Woods is signing to replace A.J. Allen, that's another issue. If they do get Josh Woods, by the way, in the weak side linebacker spot to fill in for A.J. Allen, they'll have to go probably to a second Canadian on the O-line, you would think. But what a signing that'll be if it's true. Because if you watched Josh Woods play in the Western Final against Saskatchewan. He was a dominant player for BC against the Rough Riders. He was one of the reasons the game was so close. I think he had 6 solo tackles. I think in the Western Final, Dave, I believe he had 4 or 5 in the West semifinal against Calgary. Josh Woods is a very strong player when healthy. He's had a few problems staying healthy in his career, but when he's healthy, he's a tremendous player. So there's another ratio situation you and Luke might be talking about in Saskatoon, whether he comes in and plays for AJ Allen. But all things considered, when you take a look at what the Rough Riders have done, I think they had 44 possible free agents. They've signed half of them, pretty much exactly. I believe they've signed 7 now off their practice roster. I think things, generally speaking, are going according to plan for the Rough Riders, knowing that they were going to be losing some people. And James Letcher Jr., signing with Saskatchewan, from what we understand, to replace Mary Alford. Another case of a cheaper player that should be very effective. He's younger than Mario Alford. He's got great speed. I think they see a lot of potential in Letcher Jr. For a much cheaper price.
Well, Josh Woods can confirm he is signed. So
signed.
We can check mark that one.
Good.
And then with James Letcher Jr., he also is signed. So they are both in Rider Green. So day 1 of free agency is on. We'll recap a little bit later what else is going on around the league, and it just is, which Saskatchewan Rough Riders have been picked up by who is kind of what it seems a little bit. But
the Ottawa Rough Riders have come back.
The Ottawa Rough Riders,
Are they still the Red Blacks with 4 players allegedly going to Ottawa? Or some of them already are going to Ottawa?
The biggest one that I'd like to know is that Ryan Dinwiddie and Corey Mace are very close friends. Are they still talking?
That's probably the problem. They're talking too much.
Because
they're probably, they're just people. They have relationships. They know each other. Obviously, they know each other well from when Coach Mace was in Toronto. You can probably guarantee that they're friends. They compare notes on players, and they probably have much similar thinking about certain players. They both won Grey Cup championships as a head coach. They both know what they're doing.
Yes.
Definitely, I don't think there's no doubt about it, Dave, that Ottawa's going to be a better team this year, which is good for the league. They need a better team in Ottawa. But that's when you've got 2 guys like that comparing notes. Suddenly, you've got some guys going to the wrong Rough Rider team, shall we say?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But that's an interesting turn of events. But you'd really have to give Ryan Dinwiddie full marks, would you not, for the job he's done in the early going as the head coach, general manager of Ottawa?
I agree. Sean Burke has got his fingerprints in this as well. But again, I think it's a collaborative team effort, and dare I say they're taking the Saskatchewan blueprint a little bit further, right? There's no mistaking the relationship that Jeremy O'Day and Corey Mace have with one another here in Saskatchewan. And the fruits of their labor, they are amazingly hard workers, right? And the fruits of their labor came to fruition over the last 2 years, ending with a Grey Cup championship last season. So now, hey, if I collaborate with a coach that's really good on the personnel side as well, that's maybe a formula for success, and maybe Ottawa's chasing that.
Yeah, and I think so much of it is Saskatchewan under the football administration group. I mean, Kyle Carson staying, for example, as an assistant general manager was huge when he possibly could have gone on as a general manager elsewhere in the CFL. Paul Jones, Jordan Greenlee, Larry Dean, they're right now such a strong group, and every year they're coming up with a couple of stars out of the blue. Peyton Collins at that left tackle spot is I don't know if they win the Grey Cup without him. And they recruit him right from the U.S. last year. They're going to have a couple more Peyton Collinses, and the team is as solid as I've seen it from a coaching and football administration point of view. And surprise, they're Grey Cup champions, but they're solid. And what I've seen that they've been able to do through, I think, difficult circumstances with some of these players, they've done a really good job. And, I couldn't help but think, because I haven't been on the show for a couple of weeks, the difficulty of this job at times, and that to me was front and center when they released Brett Lothar.
Yes.
The respect that the organization, fellow players, coaches have for him as a person and as a player. all the respect they have. But, when they have to make a hard decision, this particular group will make it. They won't lollygag forever and let it die an ugly, slow death like sometimes we've seen in the past.
Yeah.
They get to it. They make the hard decision. And the sooner Brett Lawther's in the Plaza of Honor, I'm sure he'll be honored, I would think.
Absolutely.
At a game this season, the better for everybody involved. But just the fact that they will make the hard decisions when they have to. Sometimes I've seen in the past where a Grey Cup is won, there's a lot of loyalty to the players, and the loyalty goes on too long. And a couple of years later, there's big problems.
Yeah.
That's not the case with this particular organization. They do make hard decisions, and that had to be one of the toughest ones as a spectator looking at the organization from afar that I've seen in some time, that they had to say bye to Brett Lawther. But what a great career he had as a Rough Rider.
And great person. Overall, great person.
Yep.
We are going to get to Les Lazaruk in just a little bit. We've got Arash Madani, Glen Suitor, and more lined up for you on this Tuesday edition of the Sports Cage. Dave Thomas filling in for Barney Shankaruk, along with the Professor Don Hewitt. Before we turn the page, do want to talk Olympics, and it's not good news for the Canadian women taking on the Americans today. Currently, it is 4-0 for the U.S. Marie-Philippe Poulin is sitting in the stands watching this one after being banged up against Czechia yesterday. I watched this game and I wonder, it's not all the chips aren't in the table right now, but
right.
Boy, I tell you, the Americans are really going strong and look like they're a very dominant team and force to be reckoned with.
Well, unfortunately, they just scored another goal. It's now 5-0. They're just skating circles around the Canadian team. I hate to say it. They're a dominant team right now. They looked like it in pre-Olympic games between the two sides. It's a bit of a shocker for Canadian fans to see what's going on right now, but really it isn't. The Americans have passed the Canadians right now in women's hockey as we speak, but anything can happen in a gold medal game.
Yes,
you never
right.
know. They are certainly missing their captain, Poulin, as you said. But right now, there's no doubt about it. It will have to be an upset for Canada to win gold in women's hockey in Italy. There's no doubt about it. And it's cyclical. A lot of people think that the same thing might happen when the Americans play the Canadians in men's hockey. I don't think you and I think that necessarily. But as people are saying, in Canadian hockey these days, as John Cooper said too just the other day, the head coach of the Canadian men's Olympic team for Canada, it's not that Canada has problems necessarily or that there's big problems in Canadian hockey. It's that other programs, other countries, other teams are getting better. Eventually, even Italy loses soccer games. That's just the way it works.
Yes.
You can invent a game. Doesn't mean that you're always going to dominate it. In fact, you won't as other countries get better. So I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the Canadian women's hockey program. There isn't. This cycle of American players just might be a little bit better, and that's all there is to it. But now we can sort of get revved up for a big upset because you never know. You get into that gold medal game. I mean, obviously Canada has to get there.
Yes.
But you never know. This could be setting it up very nicely for an upset.
You saying we're playing possum to take a quote from the Dukes of Hazzard? I don't know. I worked that one in, though. Hey, we're going to give away some food a little bit later on from Pump Jacks over in Cathedral. If you haven't been, check it out. Of course, they had the big Super Bowl festivities over the weekend, and I don't know if there was many cheering, but we know there was good food over at Pump Jacks. And that trivia question is coming up. I'm going to give you the hint. It alludes to this day in history, actually. Canadian Olympic history, all the way back to 1998. A very significant event occurred. I'll tell you about that coming up in just a little bit. But Super Bowl, I see the TV ratings were down a little bit. Did you watch? Did you partake? What did you think?
I thought Bad Bunny was good. I don't know about you, but
yeah, you're all over Bad Bunny.
The game sucked. The game was absolutely terrible. But what's interesting, and maybe you can be talking about this with Glen Suitor later, that the Super Bowl ratings in Canada apparently down 20% from a year ago, and a year ago they were down.
Yeah.
I think 10% from the year before. Now, 2 blowouts. I mean, let's be honest. That's part of it. But what's interesting is they haven't been released in the United States yet. The actual Super Bowl ratings. They don't expect a decrease, as far as I understand, when they do announce the ratings. So it could be fine in the U.S., but it's an interesting situation that they're down in Canada because the Grey Cup game did pretty well. It held its own. There wasn't a long time ago, Dave, even a young guy like you could remember, that the Grey Cup outdrew the Super Bowl in television ratings.
Yes, that's true.
It doesn't feel like it was that long ago. It's probably longer than I realize now, but this could be a very interesting development for the CFL. Not so much Bell Media that's not happy with their Super Bowl numbers.
Yeah.
Despite at times burying the CFL compared to the NFL as far as I'm concerned. But this could be an interesting development for the CFL if their ratings for the Grey Cup held strong, held firm, and they didn't for the Super Bowl. That is interesting. That could be tremendous news for the CFL. And let's face it, you take a look at that Super Bowl game. I was having trouble because my eyes were shutting during the actual contest. And I mean, yes, Saskatchewan was in the game. Obviously, we have much more interest here for that reason. But that was an exciting game.
Yes.
That was a crazily exciting Grey Cup game.
Yeah.
Whether you're cheering for Montreal, whether you're cheering for Saskatchewan, or you're just a CFL fan and you're watching it in general.
Yep.
Nobody was falling asleep in that football game like they were on Sunday.
Yes.
And I still think the tenets, despite the rule changes, the tenets of Canadian football are remaining. It will remain like exciting as it is. And I don't know. I will be interesting to see what Glen says, because I think this is a really interesting development that the ratings were down for the Super Bowl and they held firm for the Grey Cup. I think this could be tremendous news, really, for this country of football here in the CFL.
I exchanged a message with Glen, and Glen was bang on. And again, he'll talk to this just after 5 o'clock. He said, could you imagine if that was the Grey Cup, how fans would just go overboard and how the game is destroyed and ruined?
Yes.
Didn't seem to happen that way. Instead, it's one of the greatest defensive football displays in Super Bowl history, is the narrative.
Yeah. Well, that's the narrative, yes. And I've often felt that even about the CFL. I've seen some great defensive efforts in the CFL. Nobody gives the defense any credit because I do like defensive football. Yeah. It's harder to defend than to score, I've always felt, because the rules are sort of lopsided to the offense, and that's why, I appreciate defense, but a lot of people don't necessarily. The new rules are going to open things up for even more scoring, by the way.
Yes.
More excitement, I believe. But I think eventually what people see with their eyeballs has to translate over time, despite all the image. Anybody with two brains knows that Grey Cup game was a lot more exciting than the Super Bowl. Anybody can see that. Eventually, you have to start realizing it, setting the hype aside and go, look, I know what I liked.
Yep.
I know what was exciting. It was not this Super Bowl. Like, I was not watching the Super Bowl in the second half. I was watching Netflix. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's just, I was bored.
I was watching the amount of guacamole that was remaining in the bowl. So I'm going to be honest.
It was sort of going small.
It was getting smaller as the kids kept coming in. Long story short. Okay, we'll take a break. It's the Sports Cage on a Tuesday. Coming up, the voice of the Saskatoon Blades. He's going to be honored very, very soon by the Western Hockey League in a very prestigious honor. Can't wait to talk to my former partner. Yeah, I'll leave it at partner because he may have a different thought. No, you spend a lot of time with me. People have different tastes. Anyways, Les Lazaruk is going to join us in a moment. This is the Sports Cage. We're streaming at sportscage.com and live on 620 CKRM. The 10th day of February is here. Dave Thomas in for Barney Shankaruk on the Sports Cage on 620 CKRM, and of course streaming at sportscage.com. We're on the YouTube, on X. Like, subscribe, do the comment thing, whatever you want to do. Brian said, basically in reaction to our statement regarding the women's hockey team over at the Olympics, that not going to happen. The women are not good enough. And that's a tough take, but it is a more veteran squad. I think there were some younger players that perhaps could have factored in, but didn't. Right now, Team Canada is trailing the U.S. 5-0 in the third period of play. Also today is the mark of free agency officially opening in the Canadian Football League. James Vaughters is the Riders' addition to their lineup. The defensive lineman played last season with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, led the team in sacks. He comes in and joins a defensive line with Mike Rose, Ali Saad, Caleb Sanders, Aaron Patrick, and about 7 others that have been signed by the Saskatchewan Roughriders heading into the season. So that is the big story for Saskatchewan Roughriders today. Of course, we'll get into what's happening with former Riders as they're starting to find their way. For example, Jareth Stearns officially signs in Montreal with the Alouettes this afternoon. We will check in on those stories coming up. But first, former partner of mine, former colleague of mine. He's still a colleague of mine. Never former, right? Never former. He's been the voice of the Saskatoon Blades for the 32 seasons, going on 33, and is set to receive the Bob Ridley Golden Microphone Honorarium. Well-deserved. Congratulations. Les Lazaruk is here. Les, good day, sir.
Thank you, David. Nice introduction. I appreciate that. As your colleague, as you said.
Well, I was worried that I was going to be the nemesis or something like that. You know, maybe the cause of many visits.
Never. The voice of the Saskatchewan Roughriders gets with this. Not anything derisive at all. No such luck.
But Les, when Dave worked with you were in charge, though. You might as well admit it.
Oh, you darn tootin' I was in charge.
You could boss Dave around.
Yes, I could.
The stories that Mr. Lazaruk could tell from game number 1 in the Western Hockey League to, oh my gosh.
The one weekend where you and I went back and forth between Saskatoon and Calgary to do 3 different games in 2 different sports, that was crazy. But yeah, we could go on and on and on.
Absolutely we could. Well, how about we start talking a little bit of hockey? And the big question right now for the Saskatoon Blades is, what's happening at home?
That's a good question. The best description for the Saskatoon Blades playing anywhere, and especially at home, is consistently inconsistent. They can play some very good games, some very good periods, some very good stretches of times within a period, and then turn around and absolutely go in the opposite direction. And it's confounding. It is frustrating for their coaching staff and for fans alike. And something needs to happen differently, somehow, some way, in order to get the team moving in the direction that can be consistent along the lines of what they showed in a home win over Medicine Hat a few weeks back, where they beat them 3-2 in a shootout, or the game back on the 31st of January where the Blades won 4-0 up in Prince Albert, which is no mean feat in itself to be able to do this season. I mean, the Raiders, actually, that was the first East Division team to beat the Raiders at the Art Hauser Center. So that's a big accomplishment. However, since then, the Blades have had their issues, and especially at home, and losing 7-1 at home to Calgary, losing 4-2 to Lethbridge just this past Saturday, and that Lethbridge loss comes after a stirring comeback, Dave, which you saw yourself, you and your boys, and thank you for the visit to the press box. I really appreciated seeing Alex and Will and how they tower above me again. But I mean, that was a stirring comeback by the Blades to come back and beat Regina 4-3 in overtime after trailing 3-1 with 8 minutes left to go in the third period.
And I looked at that Friday victory and I thought, okay, this is the stepping stone that this team needs. And now you're just going to roll from there. But it didn't happen. And is there anything that you can put your finger on as to why it didn't happen?
I don't know. I mean, to me, they just seem to have trouble scoring goals and maintaining their intensity and their ability to play within the game plan for stretches of time. And and they make mistakes at the most inopportune times as well. I mean, the game against Lethbridge, it's a 1-1 tie. There's a turnover that leads directly to a goal, makes it 2-1. They score a short time later, and then there's another turnover that leads directly to a goal, and it's 4-1. And it's the turnovers that happen from players who should do better, should know better, and it's disappointing because you see what they can do when they really put their mind to it, when they really seem to follow and do the things they're supposed to do. Now, I will give them a bit of an out, and I know that Dan De Silva doesn't like to use this as an excuse, but the Blades are playing on their defense right now with really 4 guys. The 5th guy is Jack Lavallee, who doesn't play a whole bunch, and the 6th guy is a 16-year-old affiliate call-up who's been with the team now for a few weeks due to the injuries that they have on the back end. So there's 4 guys that are playing 25 to 30 minutes each per night on the blue line, and I think some of the mistakes come from just weariness and fatigue and sometimes being under pressure and just having a brain fart and giving a puck away at the most inopportune time.
I wanted to congratulate you, if I could, Les, for winning the Bob Ridley Award. How prestigious of an award can it be for somebody like yourself that's been the voice of the Blades for, what was it, 32, 34 years? 34?
This is the 32nd year.
32nd, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay.
Of all people to win it, it's you, because Bob Ridley did something that will never be done before unless you can get youth genie in the bottle type of thing. He went 52 years.
That's right.
With the Medicine Hat Tigers, 52.
Yep.
That's longer than a lot of people live. And
that's
carried
right.
on. And I think Bob Ridley himself, to win his award is such an honor, because like it's almost indescribable what Bob himself did with Medicine Hat. For many of those years, he also drove the bus, as well as being an excellent play-by-play man. So, I mean, how do you put this in perspective when you think about Bob himself?
Well, first off, I'm very honored to get an award that's named after Bob Ridley. He is the dean of play-by-play guys in our league, in our group, in our brethren, if you will. So that's really something. The fact that he is a guy who had that kind of longevity, who had that ability to drive the bus for so many of those 52 years, get off the bus and go and call a game, because that takes away time right away. I mean, you've got to get them there, drop them off, find a place to park the darn thing. And in some places, that's not the easiest thing in the world to do either. You're not always allowed to park inside the building. So you got to find a place to park, get inside with your gear, set it up, make sure you've got all of your prep done, get your interviews done, and then call the game. And then, I just, my hat goes off to him for being able to do it for that long, at that ability, with that kind of efficiency. And so, to me, to get this type of an award is really, really something. I can't say just how much I'm honored to receive it in his name.
Now, 32 years yourself, which is amazing. Is there anybody in the CHL that you know of, and in the three leagues? Is there anybody else been with their team like yourself for 32 years that you know of?
I honestly don't know. I've never really checked into it, because if they have, good on them. They're more than I wish them well, and tell them to just keep on going on, because that's phenomenal. I mean, for me to be 32 years, I think some people would rather I stopped and quit and stopped doing it right about now. I know there's a bunch of young guys in Junior A who would love me to step aside, but I got news for them. I still have a mortgage, so it's got to be paid off. So I'm going to continue to do this until I get that down a little bit more.
Well, I was thinking of you specifically a couple of years ago when Saskatoon had such a strong team, and it went down to the wire with the Moose Jaw Warriors, that East final. And, of course, Moose Jaw went on to win it against Portland. And I couldn't help but think, Saskatoon would have beaten Portland too. And you guys hit, I think it was 2 or 3 goal posts in the deciding game in Moose Jaw. And I thought, oh my goodness, I thought of you so many times when Kevin Glant and I were driving back to Regina after watching that game in Moose Jaw, how close you've been to these championships in Saskatoon, and just couldn't quite get there.
No, it's true.
Your day's got to come sooner or later.
Well, you think, but then what day is going to come first, though? The day I finally step down, or the day that they finally win a championship? I hope it's the latter myself. But having said that, it's not about me if they win the championship. As far as I'm concerned, Don, this is about the team winning, for the ownership group, for the coaching staff, the staff within the office, the players, and for the fan base. Me, I'm just a small, bitty piece of it. I appreciate that people think it's a big deal for me, and it would be. No two ways about that. But I'm just a small part of what this whole machine is about. And so for the Blades to win a championship, it would be something, but I would feel really good for a lot of other people than just myself. It would not be the Les Lazaruk Saskatoon Blades. It would be the Saskatoon Blades for the entire group of people.
Les Lazaruk is the voice of the Saskatoon Blades, joining us on the Western Pizza Guest Hotline. It's the pizza that's known worldwide for a reason, loaded with toppings of Western Canadian ingredients and always cooked to perfection. So bring us up to present day. Nicely nestled in a good, firm playoff spot in the Eastern Conference. How important is it for this group to get a home, or at least home ice advantage in the opening round of the playoffs, if not further beyond that?
Despite the fact, Dave, that they do have a better road record than home record as it stands right now, do not feel like this would be a thing that, okay, you can finish 5th or 6th and play against a team that's going to have home ice advantage and you've got the advantage because you're a better road team. No. You want to have home ice advantage. So catching 4th place is paramount for this team. They'll tell you that, and they're not going to give up on that until they're finally told that they can't do it. At the worst, they want to be in 5th place, though, because I think they'd rather play the 4th place team, which right now is the Calgary Hitmen. And yes, I know about the recent 7-1 loss, but I would think that playing Calgary would be a more favorable opponent for the Blades than playing against a Medicine Hat or an Edmonton in the first round, which if they were to finish in 6th place. So their current position being 6th in the conference, yes, it's a playoff spot, but it's not a good spot to be in, considering who your first round opponent would likely be.
So you mentioned Prince Albert, Medicine Hat, and Edmonton, 3 strong teams. Is there a dark horse right now in the Eastern Conference?
Well, I guess Calgary would be to a degree. They're so young. The lineup they threw out against the Blades last week had an average age for the 20-man roster of 17.6 years old. I mean, they've only got one 19-year-old and 2 20-year-olds in their lineup. So they had 17 players aged 18 or younger in that game against Saskatoon, and yet there they were just putting the boots to the Blades by a score of 7-1. So they've got some really good players. And considering they were a team that made some moves last year to try and win it all last year, acquiring a lot of good players along the line, hats off goes to Gary Davidson, their general manager, for being able to restock the cupboards in a big hurry, restock the roster in a big hurry, and have some really quality people. They've got some Junior A guys. They've got some American kids that have come from wherever and have just really been very good for them this season. So Calgary would probably be the dark horse. Beyond that, the Blades could be a dark horse too, but they would need to have their goaltending be outstanding. They would have to find some goal scoring, which has been an issue this year. The first 12 games of this season, the Blades were 9-3. They scored 48 goals. We're averaging 4 goals a game. Since then, they averaged just under 3 a game, and their record is below 500 since then. So if they could find a way to get back to that 4 goal per game clip that they had early in the season, then they have a chance to be a bit of a problem for teams above them in the standings come playoff time.
So, Les, this is year 1 of the new agreement, or not really the new agreement, but the NCAA allowing CHL players, I guess once they're finished high school, to come south for money. As you see it now, as we only have a little over a month left in the regular season, as you look at it now, how do you think the CHL and more specifically the Western Hockey League has changed since then? Or you mentioned American players coming up that may not have come up otherwise. Of course, McKenna going the biggest case, leaving Medicine Hat, now falling to 3, by the way, from 1. He'd probably still be 1 if he's in Medicine Hat. We can talk about that later, in my theory. But how do you think the Western Hockey League is done now in year 1 of this new NCAA situation?
I think they've handled it pretty well. Yes, they lost something like 39 players to the NCAA that could have been back this year. 20 of those could have been 20-year-olds, and I think that's one area where the league is maybe a little bit weaker than what they have been in the past, is the quality of 20-year-old. Having said that, they also have 19 players who were 19 or 18 years old, and some of them, Keaton Verhoff, Cole Reshny, Gavin McKenna, obviously, those types of players are big losses. They're the marquee guys, and especially for those teams. I mean, Medicine Hat and Victoria got bitten big time, and yet the Hat has recovered beautifully. Willie Desjardins just has a way, again, of finding Junior A and American players to fill in, and they're pretty good again this year. Not just pretty good, they're very good. And Victoria has struggled a little bit, but they're slowly but surely seeming to find their way in the Western Conference. So I think the league has done all right with the NCAA situation. I think you're finding that there were players that came back from the NCAA, Ryland Gould being most notable, was traded by Swift Current to Everett and has found his way back into the Western Hockey League as a 20-year-old. It's not for everybody. I think you find out that, the money is there for you, but you also have to go to classes. you have to, and if you're not on the other teams, on your college team's top two lines or a first power play unit, like you probably could have been had you been in the Western Hockey League. Yeah. You might even find yourself sitting and watching, which when you're only playing on Fridays and Saturdays, if you miss a couple of weekends in a row as a healthy scratch, boy, you could be sitting out and not playing. And I don't know how that helps your development at all. So I think there's some second thoughts going on with some players who have either committed or are thinking of committing to the NCAA. And hopefully it results in the Western Hockey League maintaining itself as the prime development source for professional ranks.
Yeah, I mean, McKenna could be not really, the exception to the actual rule, as Les said, because if you're not on the first line or two, I mean, so McKenna falls to third. When he left the Western Hockey League, he was by far the dominant first pick in the NHL draft. I know the World Junior result had something to do with this, but he's got what, 32, 34 points playing for Penn State. He would have had 120 by now for Medicine Hat. Spectacular goals. People would be talking about it. It'd be on national TV all the time like it was last year. Now you're not seeing anything on national TV. No. Some of the images and whatnot that he is not getting anymore from being a dominant player for Medicine Hat, has that been part of what's lowered his stock? Is there any credence to that?
Yeah, Don, I guess there is that. But again, that's central scouting and some of the independent scouting services. I applaud them for doing the work that they do. However, having said that, I still think that he's the guy. I think there are more teams in the National Hockey League that don't publish their lists and what they're thinking and would look at him and say, generational talent, somebody along the line of a Celebrini, of a Bedard, a Connor McDavid. I mean, that's going a little bit far, but I think they really believe that Gavin McKenna certainly is in that Bedard, Celebrini range, somewhere in there with those two guys, and as a result becomes the pick to make first overall, if you happen to get that pick. Yeah, you could say Keaton Verhoff. You could say the Swedish kid, Stenberg. But I mean, I think McKenna is going to still end up being the first overall pick when push comes to shove in late July.
Les Lazaruk, the voice of the Saskatoon Blades. I'm so happy that you threw out the first punch when it came to Gavin McKenna. Sorry, I'm just leaving that there. I'll be here all day. Sorry.
But, good one. You had me for a second.
Thank you. This is Barney's seat, and we all know why now. But before we let you go, you do need to weigh in for us on the Canadian men's Olympic hockey team. The women not doing so well today against the U.S. How do you see the Canadian men's hockey team shaping up?
The Canadian men's hockey team is going to win the gold medal. No two ways about it. I mean, wow. I know that they're going to get a challenge, and it's not just from the Americans. Although they'll probably be the team that Canada has to beat to win the gold medal in the final. But don't look past Czechia. Do not look past Sweden. Don't look past Finland. The Slovaks can be capable of wins if you allow them to. You have to play the Canadian style of game that is so effective, and John Cooper will bring it out of them. And that group is far more talented and has far more heart and has far more pride in flag and nation than the rest of them. And I believe that because of that, Canada's men's hockey team will win the gold medal. And I would be starting Jordan Binnington in game one in goal and give him the chance. He's earned it. He's the guy. He won the Four Nations Challenge last year. He's won big games in the past for Hockey Canada. If he doesn't win, if he has another game like he has had several with St. Louis this year, fine. It's only one game. You do not lose the tournament in one game. But if you win that game, you're in pretty good shape. If you lose, okay, you've still got Logan Thompson or Darcy Kemper in reserve, and both of those guys are very capable. So I don't see any problem with starting Binnington and letting him try and see what happens. And I think Canada will do just fine. And like I say, they'll win the gold medal, in my mind, in Milan Cortina.
Watch, I'm going to get Les to hang up right now. Ready? Les, I know that Connor McDavid is the favorite of yours, being the captain of the Edmonton Oilers. What do you think of him skating with Macklin Celebrini?
I think it's great. Wonderful. No, I mean, Dave, I don't like the Edmonton Oilers. Okay,
I know that.
That is so well known by people. It has absolutely nothing to do with how I feel. I mean, Chris Knobloch is their head coach. I love Chris Knobloch. He was always so good to deal with as a player, as a coach in the Western Hockey League, and the players on the Oilers are tremendous players for the most part, but there's just some people that rub me the wrong way that used to be with the organization or around the team, and some fans that I could do without. So, I mean, I don't like the Edmonton Oilers. However, I do recognize that Connor McDavid is the best player in the world, and when he scored the winning goal last year in the Four Nations Challenge, he cemented that. And as far as I'm concerned, I wouldn't be surprised if he's the guy that ends up being the leader for Canada in scoring and leading them to that gold medal later on this month.
There you go. See, I could have brought up a Habs reference too, because both would have resulted in the same.
Don't even start.
Same problem.
Same problem.
Blades back on the ice tomorrow night against the Regina Pats up at SaskTel Center. That's the next action that you get to call. Should be another doozy, right?
It should be. Anytime the big city Saskatchewan rivals get together, it's always a lot of fun.
Les, appreciate you doing this. Sorry you had to deal with me and not Barney today, but all the best. And again, congratulations on the well-deserved honor with the Bob Ridley Golden Microphone Honorarium.
Thank you, sir. Much appreciated.
There you go. Les Lazaruk joining us, the voice of the Saskatoon Blades on CJWW up in Saskatoon. Again, he had to put up with me for 10 years back in the day.
How did you enjoy working with Les?
Oh, loved it. The amount of stuff that I learned from Les was amazing. Absolutely.
amazing. He's like yourself, I will say, because you're so prepared for the Rough Rider broadcast, Dave. Les is, you learned from a good teacher, didn't you? Because even doing this segment, you could see how prepared Les was.
Oh, yeah.
To do this and to talk on any topic. And I see that with you as a play-by-play man with the Rough Riders too, and there's nothing like preparation, is there?
No. If you know what you're doing, it goes a lot better than when you know what you don't, right? And often you're not the only person that doesn't know that you don't know what's going on. So it's very hard.
Well, people think that this business, not that we're trying to blow our own horns, but it's just a bunch of schmucks behind a mic yakking. If you're going to do a decent job in this business, you have to do homework.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Or else you're not going to be very good at it, like any other job.
Very true.
It's just, and you can tell some of the people in the business that aren't doing their homework and the people that do. And I appreciate people like yourself and others that do their homework like Les, and it's much more interesting to listen to.
Well, all I'll say with Dan Croft over at Croft Electric, he knows if he doesn't do his homework, it's a shocking result. See,
you're hot today,
This
Dave.
is going to be something. Okay, we got to get to our sports ticker. We'll tell you what happened over in Italy with the women's hockey team. That is coming up, as well as much more, including Glen Suitor, Arash Madani, all on a Tuesday edition of the Sports Cage. We're streaming at sportscage.com and on 620 CKRM. Well, we'll start over in Italy with the women's hockey team playing the Americans today. Did not go well for the Canadians. They were shut out 5-0. Canada's record falls to 2-1 at the games. The U.S. improved to 4-0. The Canadians will look to rebound again tomorrow. In the Western Hockey League, 4 games tonight. The Regina Pats are in Prince Albert to take on the Raiders, a game you'll hear right here on CKRM starting at 6:30. Also involved tonight, the Moose Jaw Warriors taking on the Brandon Wheat Kings. 3 games in the SJHL this evening. Battle Fords is in Nipawin. LaRange welcomes Warman, while Kindersley is taking on Humboldt. And the Prairie Junior Hockey League, the Assiniboia Southern Rebels welcoming the Pilot Butte Storm. And in under 18 AAA boys hockey, the Estevan Bears play the Yorkton Maulers today. The Regina Pat Canadians are up in Saskatoon to take on the Contacts at Merlis Belcher Place. The Contacts are starting to soar as they've made their way into a playoff position in midget AAA hockey. So that's going to be a dandy tonight with the Regina Pat Canadians and Saskatoon Contacts. I'm trying to guess where would Maddox Schultz and Liam Pugh play tonight. Would they play in PA with the Pats or in Saskatoon against the Contacts? That's a debate for another day. That is your sports ticker here on the Sports Cage. Of course, brought to you by Reliance Group of Companies. Coming up after news time, we'll hear from Arash Madani. This is the Sports Cage. We're streaming on X and at sportscage.com, and of course on the radio across Saskatchewan and Western Canada at 620 CKRM. It is the Tuesday edition of the Sports Cage. Dave Thomas filling in for Barney Shankaruk and the Professor Don Hewitt. So I'm so pleased that he's joining me today, lending his knowledge and expertise as we talk sports around Saskatchewan. Of course, CFL Free Agency officially opened today. You might have thought that happened last week, but no, it actually happened today. We'll talk about that.
I'm going to ask you for your knowledge and expertise,
okay,
Dave, because you know what's going on with the Rough Riders more than I do. Jorgen Hughes has been an outstanding long snapper, a local product for Saskatchewan, longest serving rider. Next, another Lothar's gone. I'm not sure. He was even longer than Lothar.
Yes.
There's a big gap going on right now, Dave. He hasn't re-signed. Who's going to do our long snapping? What's going on with Jorgen?
Well, I think Jorgen's got a decision, right? He's got a very young family, and they need to decide what they're going to do with their future, right? Does that include another year or 2 or 3 or whatever it might be when it comes to playing football? Again, his success rate in snapping the football is over 93%, I believe was the last that Ken Majuri told me, which is insane. And when we're talking that 7%, we're not talking that it's high or low. It might be where the laces were.
Yeah.
So that's incredible. So I think he's got a decision to make if he wants to continue with football or not with the young family. So I think that just give him space and time to make that. Lake Corte Moore was the guy that was doing the brunt of the long snapping before he got hurt as a backup, if you will. Okay. So there's other guys that can do it. We'll just have to wait and see who might do it. But I think it's just wait and see on what Jorgen is going to do.
Now, Jorgen lives in Saskatchewan, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's in Saskatoon predominantly. Okay. So yeah, that's where his family is. He runs coaching clinics. He does tons for the community up there. So well, he's the best in the business, as you just said. And that's going to be huge. But I guess if you're as good as Jorgen Hughes is, then if you're the organization and Jeremy O'Day, you wait it out to see if you can keep him because he's automatic. Yes, exactly, right? So when you've got your long snapper able to get that consistency, right, that lends to other players being able to do and perform what they need to do at a high level. So some other CFL signings that are starting to trickle in. Aiden Eberhardt has signed. Of course, he had the second highest yards per reception in the CFL last season in BC, but the Ottawa Red Blacks confirmed that they have brought him in. Carrick Wheatfall is heading to Hamilton. AJ Allen, still waiting to formally be announced by the Ottawa Red Blacks. But again, that was one signing that we were kind of watching and keeping an eye on to see what will happen there. So, and Greg Bell apparently becomes the highest paid American running back in the CFL. Does that surprise you that Greg Bell's the highest paid running back? Not when you need a running back. No, because Greg Bell is a very, very talented athlete. That's my take on it anyways. But we need to get another take. Let's head out coast to coast. It's time to join Arash Madani.
It's time to go coast to coast with Arash Madani for Smart Investing Solutions. Be smart with your money. Call Brian Gawley at Smart Investing Solutions, 546-2533.
Arash Madani joining us on the Western Pizza Guest Hotline. Stuck with me, filling in for Barney today. The Professor Don Hewitt is over there. Arash, great to see you.
He's stuck with both of us.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately for him, for Arash.
Well, let's just say that he's going ahead and bringing up my level of play for sure. What do you think of the level of play in Super Bowl 60, my friend?
Oh, man. I mean, look, the defense from Seattle was great, but from an entertainment value standpoint, what do we get, 3 minutes of entertainment? The Patriots score a touchdown. You're like, okay, well, I guess it's a 2-score game. There's a chance here. If the Seahawks were going to win, fellas, they're going to have to win that way. They weren't going to get spectacular quarterback play. They weren't going to light up the scoreboard. If this was the path to a Seattle victory was exactly what they showed. A ton of defensive pressure, a bunch of different looks, pressure packages all over the place, and dominating special teams. And when you win 2 out of the 3, and they actually probably won the offensive battle too, because Drake May and that offense was so bad. That's the pathway to winning a championship, and that's what the Seahawks did.
Arash, some would suggest that Sam Darnold had something to prove. Did he prove it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Dave, he proved it because he's a champion. He proved it because through the month of January, he didn't turn the ball over once. He proved it that He was discarded by the Jets. Carolina wanted nothing to do with him. He had to go to San Francisco to be a backup, and then he ends up in Minnesota. And I'm a lifelong Vikings guy. For reasons I cannot explain still, okay. He was blamed for them losing in Detroit and losing the playoff game after a 14-win season. And now Sam Darnold has silenced everybody and everything with this run by doing it. I was thinking about this morning, guys. It's crazy how football can go. If you go back to week 16, here's Seattle playing the Rams. Number one, if the Rams win, they have the number one seed throughout the NFC playoffs. Mm-hmm. And LA's up 16 on Seattle in the fourth quarter. And somehow the Seahawks end up winning that game. There's this random fumble. The ball's just sitting there in the end zone. Zach Charbonnet goes and scoops it up. After that, Darnold doesn't commit a turnover. After that, he gets it done. And so he didn't have to go out there and be Peyton Manning in his prime or Drew Brees in his prime, but he threw 3 touchdown passes in the NFC Championship game, and he took what was there for him on Sunday, and now he's a world champion.
Okay, back to the defense. You've already alluded to it, and you kind of hinted at it when you talked about the pressure and the way that the Seattle game plan really worked. Was that just a case of out-coaching? Where did all that pressure come from all of a sudden?
Well, no, Dave, I wouldn't say all of a sudden. This has been their calling card, man. This is what they do, and this is what Mike Macdonald does on defense. Now, a few things. You want to take the 10,000-foot view? The reason they're able to do this is because they have hit on every single draft pick. First round, second round, fifth round, bang, money. Devin Witherspoon, who had 2 sacks in that game, he's not just a first-round pick. He's the pick they got in the Russell Wilson trade. They're absolutely dialed in from a personnel standpoint. So that's one. 2 is they brought pressure on the left side of New England's offensive line. What did they identify? They identify a rookie left tackle and a rookie left guard. So the entire blind side for Drake May is a mess. And not only are they bringing pressure there, but once that starts to take care of itself, then Devin Witherspoon ends up blitzing B-gap between the left guard and the center. And so suddenly you got pressure coming off the edge, you got pressure coming in down the middle, and Drake May's like, what is happening here? And I think they had something like 16 quarterback pressures in that football game. That's an insane number. And when you do that, game over.
Yeah, we saw that in the Grey Cup game.
Absolutely.
The Traverse. Now, the NFL does something very unique, and I don't like it. It's sort of like the NHL playoff format. Designed to put seats in seats, but not so much for the better of the sport. That's the NHL playoff format in a nutshell. It makes the regular season somewhat irrelevant, not totally, but somewhat. The NFL, if you have a bad year, like the New England Patriots did a year ago when they only won 3 games, they give you an easier schedule. And it bit them. It bit them in the Super Bowl because they had such an easy schedule. They didn't have a tough team in the second round of the playoffs after getting the bye. And then they got the gimme with no Bo Nix and bad weather in Denver, and it bit the NFL with the second dud in a row and low television ratings in Canada. Yeah, I mean, I'm just making a statement more than a question, but it just seems like when you make decisions on just dollars and not the sport, it might cost you dollars in the end at certain times because of the dud that it ended up being. And clearly the NFC Championship was the Super Bowl.
Yeah, the NFC Championship game was the Super Bowl. I don't know, Don, I find the majority of people who tune into the Super Bowl are not watching the football game. How many people do you know who have Super Bowl parties? How many people do you know who are thinking more about the snacks and the commercials, right?
And Bad Bunny too.
I went to one Super Bowl party at somebody's house, and people talked through all the football. And then when the commercials came on, I wanted to talk to people about what we just saw, and everyone told me to shut up because the commercials were starting. And I'm like, well, I'm never going to a Super Bowl party again. Yeah. This is, it's almost backwards.
Yeah.
I think there was a lack of sexiness to this matchup. Sam Darnold is not somebody who moves the needle that has people talking. I think we got spoiled by Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes and Taylor Swift and all of that. But Sam Darnold versus Drake May is a football matchup. It's not a guacamole matchup. And so often these days, people are into the sizzle and not the steak. And I think that's kind of a byproduct of what you saw here.
But you thought special teams stood out in this game.
100%. Like, first of all, the Seahawks kicker, Jason Myers, was money in the bank. It was 5 for 5. That's one thing.
Yeah.
Secondly, the Seahawks punter not only had 3 kicks inside the 20, but 2 of them pinned inside the 3-yard line.
Yeah.
And it's 2 things. One is when here's Drake May, who's taking a needle into the throwing shoulder before the game, and he's unable to just get into any kind of rhythm. He's missing screen passes. He's missing short underneath dump balls. They can't get an offense going. And then they finally score a touchdown. And then the Patriots defense holds Seattle to a 3-and-out, and suddenly New England's coming onto the field, and you're saying to yourself, here we go. And what does Jason Dixon do, the punter? He just drills one that's fielded at the 2-yard line. Next thing you know, New England's playing on their back heels, and May throws the interception that basically seals the deal. So we don't talk about punters because, I'm all here for the punters are people too movement. But when you're starting drives at the 2 and the 3-yard line, when an offense has had a failure to launch, that makes a big impact on the whole thing.
You got to remember, though, the goalposts weren't in the way. So the offense, no, I'm leaving. Okay, you mentioned Drake May. Okay, so the needle in the shoulder, is that the, I don't know, I guess excuse is the word, the only one that comes to, is that why the offense struggled?
Partly. I think the offensive line was a total mess. I thought Josh McDaniels did a really poor job of helping the offensive line with some chips and extra blockers, especially off the edge. I thought New England abandoned the run way too early. Like, as awful as they were, first 8 possessions, punt, 9th possession, fumble. Like, you can't get worse than that. Mm-hmm. As bad as they were only down 9-zip at the half, and they got Ramondre Stevenson kind of going in the opening series of the third quarter, and then they just stopped running the football.
Yeah,
like, I think when you look at the anatomy of the loss and all the different ways, yes, Seattle won it, but all the different ways New England lost it too, I think there's going to be a lot of glaring things that are going to jump off the tape. And the other thing, guys, is I think it became crystal clear that the Patriots, even though they spent the most... Welcome to Toronto.
Is your house on fire?
Yeah, exactly. just another day in the big smoke. Yes, I know they got to the Super Bowl. They need a number 1 receiver. They need a deep threat. Yeah, they spent the most in free agency of any other team. They need a surefire number 1. Seattle has it in Jackson Smith and Jigba. LA has it in Devontae Adams, who's still the number 1. They also have Puka Nacua. It doesn't exist in Foxborough. They got to go get one.
You brought up the running game, and it's interesting about what do you need to be a good offensive coordinator. And sometimes I think the number 1 word is patience. How many times, even in Saskatchewan this past year, do you see a team pound the ball and they don't get anywhere with it until the fourth quarter, till finally the defensive front wears down and they keep going? I saw Mark Mueller running the ball this year after a lot of coordinators have seen before would have given up.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, the cracks start coming, and quite often it's not until the time of possession has worn down a defensive front. And I think you make a great point, Arash, because they didn't show patience with the run, and it's these teams that just keep going, that won't give up with it, that end up quite often holding up a trophy.
You know, Don, we had to wait until the fourth quarter to see a touchdown scored in this game, which is insane to begin with, right?
Yep.
But what did you get on the touchdown? You had a number two tight end come across the formation off a play fake that Darnold's able to find A.J. Barner. How unlikely was it? Barner was 12-1 underdog in the gambling sites to score the first touchdown that game. And Kenneth Walker, the running back for the Seahawks, the starting running back for the Seahawks, has rightfully got the Super Bowl MVP. But when you're committed to the run, that New England defensive box bit on the run badly, and it was a one-on-one matchup with the linebacker. But here's the thing: when you're that committed to the run, it wasn't Kenneth Walker even on the field on that play. George Helani, the fourth-string running back, who was only activated because Charbonnet tore up his knee, he was the running back on the play fake. But when you're that committed to the run, that's how it can also open up in the passing game, and that's how Seattle scored the touchdown that really was the game-winning score.
Arash Madani joining us on the Western Pizza Guest Hotline. Of course, coast to coast for smart investing solutions. Be smart with your money. Call Brian Golly at Smart Investing Solutions, 546-2533. If you're a fan of football, I would highly recommend sitting next to Luke Mullender as he diagnoses a play when he's doing video work. It is an entirely different view. Again, in my illustrious high school career, I was checking out who was in row 2, section 2, if you know what I mean. But Devon Witherspoon, he revealed some of the things that they are looking for when it comes to film study, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. And Mike Vrabel was a little sheepish about it and tried to be defensive about it. Just the way the offensive linemen were lined up for the Patriots in passing versus running situations, there was a tell. By the way they had lined up, by the way, whether they're 2-point stands, 3-point stands, whether, their footwork, etc. It's almost like in baseball when pitchers are kind of tipping a little bit, letting you know what's coming.
Yeah.
The Patriots offensive line, Witherspoon said, was doing that, and they didn't even realize they were doing that. I will assure you that gets cleaned up in OTAs, in mini camps, and in training camp. The fact that all the film those guys watch, all the practice film they watch, that remained a blind spot for New England's coaching staff is wild.
And that brings a point about the way coaching is now in football. We saw what happened to Pete Carroll with the Raiders this year. There's so much work and so much more detail than ever before. You just brought up some detail now that was a factor in the Super Bowl game that you have to go through 3 or 4 levels to find with details. Like it's the detail underneath the detail. Oh, look at that situation. There's just so much to it that the young man seems to be, in certain respects, taking over football coaching. This is because the hours are so long, it's so physically grueling. What do you think of that?
Yeah. But Don, here's the thing. Their coaching staffs now are massive.
Yeah,
they have so many analytics gurus, they have so many projection people, they have so many people watching film, etc. Stuff like that's just got to be picked up. But sometimes in a groupthink and collaboration and all these words that they get thrown around now, everybody's afraid to step up and say, hey, wait a minute, this is what we're doing. If you're not high enough on the food chart. So, yeah.
Arash Madani, Coast to Coast. Again, the admiration that I have for your storytelling capabilities, and some of the best stories you've told in your career have come from the Olympic Games. Canada today wins its first silver in short track speed skating. The mixed relay, again, it's amazing some of the events that are coming out of the woodwork, but you had a chance to see it, I'm sure.
Yeah, I did. And to me, this is one of the wildest sports that exists, not just at an Olympics, but like on Earth. Like, it's effectively human bumper cars on ice. Yeah. You know, like, and then you got major moves coming all over the place, and the skate blade is as wide as a dime, and you're in the tiniest of ovals where hundredths of a second make the difference with 4 different competitors over 2.5 minutes. Whew. Like, you know, it's exhausting just kind of talking about it. I thought it was great, like, not only just great that they won the silver medal, but Kim Boutin was on that team. Kim was the closing ceremony flag bearer in 2018. That's her 5th career Olympic medal. And to do it in that sport where the margin for error is so minute is pretty amazing. Canada's off to a good start, you know, and a lot of the potential medals are still to come. But it's been a really good few days for Canada over there at Milano Cortina.
Can you, again, I draw on your experience. Can you tell me what it's like to be for the athletes? And I don't know, is mutual admiration the right path to go down, and respect that they have for one another in their respective disciplines? Because obviously the NHL guys are there, and like there's Connor McDavid walking in the hall of the Olympic Village alongside pick the athlete. Is that really a big thing?
So I'll tell you a couple stories. One, Mike Babcock, Sochi 2014. They're in the teeth of the tournament. You know, they're the defending Olympic gold medalists, and he tells his staff, all right, everybody, night off. We just need a break from this. So he takes his staff to the ice dance at Sochi, and he said, you know, we wanted a night to relax. We left there nervous wrecks, you know, going to figure skating, like hoping to, because you get so caught up in it.
True.
And it's amazing. Whether it's the ice dance today, I'm watching the luge with a buddy, and we're like, uh-oh, something like that didn't look good. We suddenly become experts in these sports every 4 years. And we suddenly we know what's happening. The other one is Kobe. Like, Kobe Bryant went to a bunch of Olympic Games, and he's like, I'm not a member of the basketball team here. He's like, I'm a member of Team USA. And the chef de mission for Team USA always would say, Kobe used to drive me crazy because the athletes would have to go to the Olympic Committee to ask for tickets. And he's like, Kobe wanted to go see everything.
That's cool.
He wanted to be part of it. He, you know, like, hey, you're going to be in the judo, you're going to be in this, you're going to be in that, track and field. I was at the 100 meter final in Paris 2024. And there's Drew Holiday from the men's basketball team. Like, these guys get into it. So we talk about the speed skating final. I sent Colson the photo. I don't know if it was the entire men's hockey team. If you're watching on the stream, the majority of the dudes are there. And the reactions from them as there's a tumble on a tight turn, everybody's dialed in. Everybody's into it. Doesn't matter if it's Sidney Crosby or anybody else. Not one person's on their phone. Everybody's feeling it. It's the weirdest thing, guys, that happens at an Olympic Games. You're not wonderful. Part of a team. Yep. You are part of Team Canada or Team USA or wherever it might be that you're from. And it's a real thing. And I've heard about it and seen it firsthand.
And then we saw today earlier our Ukrainian figure skater who was skating for his father, who was on the front lines in the Ukraine. He doesn't even know how his father's faring on the front lines, and it brings it all into perspective how important sports is in that respect, that this was his vehicle to honor his dad on the front lines. I mean,
so cool.
Yeah, pretty amazing, isn't it?
Today's women's hockey game, of course, the women had to play without their captain for Team Canada. They were shut out by the Americans. Are we panicking yet?
I don't know if we're panicking. I'm I thought that result was entirely expected.
Yeah.
Like, guys, it was the worst defeat in Olympic history for Canadian women's hockey. It's not just that they lost 5-0 tonight. They didn't win the gold medal in 2018. They've had a bunch of, whatever they want to call it, summit series or something or other. They've had back and forths. The USA has routinely won those. If we're being honest, if you even want to go back to 2014, it's still it's the greatest hockey game I've seen in person. Canada, USA. I still can't explain to you how the Canadians won that game. So you barely win in 14, you lose in 18 to them. This rivalry series with the Americans, the U.S. has dominated. Now you're without your captain today. What you think was going to happen?
What are the reasons for this happening, do you think, Arash, in women's hockey in particular? I mean, a lot of people thought, well, at one point, the Americans got, the United States is 10 times the population, although the southern half not into hockey, but it's growing in certain states. Is it possible that there's just going to be greater numbers playing the game eventually than what Canada has, or how do you diagnose the situation in women's hockey? I mean, we could still win the gold. You never know in one game, but how do you diagnose this?
Sure. But Don, I wouldn't even just say, is it Canada, U.S. women's hockey? Like, Latvia's got a population of 2.5 million, and they're right there when you talk about World Juniors.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the rest of the world has caught up in hockey, just like we've caught up with the rest of the world in basketball.
Yes. Okay.
Like, it really feels like, you go back generations and countries specialized in certain sports, and they were kind of tied to the identity of what the country did. Well, John Mechie was from Brampton, Ontario, a football player, went to University of Alabama, and before national championship, somebody said to him, hey, like, it's kind of weird that you're from a hockey country and here you are playing in the SEC for the Alabama Crimson Tide. He's like, I never played hockey growing up. Our interests are more diverse than ever. Our country's more diverse than ever. People are doing different things now. And other countries are just better. Other countries have better development programs. Other countries have increased the stakes, and we're not matching what some of the other countries are doing at the development level, at the national sport organizations level. And it continues to be, we're reminded of this over and over again, and yet nothing's really changing. Canada hasn't won gold at the World Juniors, 3 years in a row now? They didn't medal for a couple of years. And that's at the development stage. So by the time it gets to this point in time, what's going to happen? So there are a lot of reasons I'm not surprised, and these are some of the reasons why.
Okay, Arash, before we let you go, first of all, when you said that we caught up to the rest of the world, I thought you were going to say in soccer, but that's going to be a different debate for a different day. I'm sure of that.
We'll find out this summer. Well, Dave, we will definitely find out this summer.
Okay, you're not surprised. You look to the top of the podium right now, or the medal standings, Norway, Japan, the host Italians are there. You're not surprised, right?
I'm not, and this is why. Think about this. Norway, 1994 Lillehammer, they hosted the Olympics there. They have infrastructure, they have facilities, they have things in place to develop athletes. Nagano, 98, Japan, same thing. Torino, 2006, Italy, same thing. There were a lot of people trying to get these 2026 Winter Olympics in Calgary because so many of the facilities at Canada Olympic Park and all over the city are now aging, leaking, broken. They're saying, okay, not only do we want to host an Olympics, but we want to continue having that as our Winter Olympic development headquarters. It didn't happen. Around Vancouver, they only have so much that's left over from Vancouver 2010. I really wonder in the years ahead, bobsled, luge, skeleton, ski jump, some of those things that we've been pretty good at because of what we had in Calgary, how far behind may we be in Olympics in the future?
Wow. That's a great point. I hadn't even considered that. And being someone that goes to Vancouver frequently, I completely understand what you're saying with those facilities. Very good point. Arash, sorry, I probably kept you way too long. I could keep talking forever.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I appreciate you again for doing this. We will talk again. Barney should be back later on in the week. Thanks, Arash. And again, I love your insights. And go Canada, go.
Go Canada, go. Great to see you, boys.
Thanks, Arash.
Arash Madani joining us on the Western Pizza Guest Hotline, of course, coast to coast for smart investing solutions. Be smart with your money. Call Brian Gawley at Smart Investing Solutions, 546-2533. We need to take a break. We'll come back, get to your clutch performer of the day for Glen Suitor. That's on the way next. It's the SportsCage streaming on X, of course, and YouTube and sportscage.com. And we're on the radio at 620 CKRM. Alrighty, clutch performer time on the SportsCage. Dave Thomas filling in for Barney Shankrick, joined by Don Hewitt today. We've got Colson Schultz manning the board. Colson, I don't think I introduced you yet. And you're the one that's keeping this train on the tracks.
Yes.
I don't think I noticed, so that shows how much attention I'm paying.
Wow, that really hurt.
Don't forget to switch yourself so we see you, Colson.
That really hurt.
You're in
right
charge
there.
of putting yourself on the stream.
There you go. Look at that.
A handsome man of a
strapping young lad. There you go.
Handsome man.
All right. Colson's maybe clutch all the time in the sports cage, but my clutch performer today is Hayley Woodhouse. Boy, I tell you, what a month she had. She's a first-year student athlete from Dilk or Dilkey. I've been told you can pronounce both, and it depends whose bubble you talk to.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Reed, I've always known it as Dilk. But
Dilk. That's the way I went.
You can actually call it Dilkey too.
Some people say Dilkey.
I didn't know that.
Well, we're learning new things.
Breaking news.
That's right. Breaking news. Dilk can be called Dilkey. Watch the text line fill up at 306-936-6262. Anyways, Hayley Woodhouse, the Sask Sport Athlete of the Month for January, capped off a stretch that saw her pile up 10 podium finishes, including 5 gold medals and 5 new records across 3 major events. So a heck of a month for Hayley Woodhouse, your clutch performer for our friends at Glen Suitor. Don, you had one?
Clutch performer. I can't help but think of that Ukrainian figure skater again.
Yeah.
Anybody from the Ukraine in the Olympics is a clutch performer for what that country is going through, and somehow they're able to get some athletes to something like the Winter Games.
Yes.
In Italy. It's phenomenal, and anytime I see the Ukrainian soccer team, whoever's representing their country proudly under such dire and awful, horrible circumstances is miraculous. The whole world, I hope, is cheering for the Ukraine, and whatever they do, wherever they go Ukraine. That's all I got to say. They are the clutch performers, because the rest of the world has no idea what they're going through, really.
True.
And to still show up and compete is wonderful, remarkable, and it shows you how sports transcends so much in life and what's going on, and how important it can be that they can use the Olympics as a voice.
Yes.
As a voice for themselves and to the world.
Very well said. Okay. Colson, your turn.
Do I have to follow that up?
I know. Isn't that tough? Way to go, Dave. Way to go. Put you on the spot.
Mine is, again, we had the Super Bowl this weekend, but I'm a tech guy sitting over here as the producer, right?
Yes.
I really, really appreciate it, and a few other people online have, the camera shot at the end of the national anthem, where I'll show it on the stream here. The cameraman pans from Charlie Puth, who's doing the anthem, up to the flyover.
Oh, yeah.
And seamlessly back.
Oh, that's so cool.
Right?
Yeah.
Simple, clean, right? And again, it's blowing up a little bit online, and one of the pages that I've seen it has the guy's number, so I was texting him about it. He's like, yeah, I just do that every year at the Daytona 500. I don't know why that's such a big deal.
You know what I'd like to know, just as from a television production perspective, whether he would have had a director in his ear saying, they're there right now, or pan up now to the exact time, or whether he's looking at it out the corner of his eye. I mean, they're so well organized in those productions. They might have been able to, Colson, tell him, pan up.
Maybe.
I mean, it's hard to say, because that you're right, Colson. That's a great shot.
Yeah.
He had it perfect.
Yeah, and there's multiple ways that they do it differently too, right? Because some directors are physically like a puppet master trying to do everything, and then other directors was like, hey, you're the professional cameraman, you get me the shot, and if it's good, I'll take it, right? So it could have been the director saying, hey, pan up, the planes are there, or just, hey, planes above if you want to take that shot or not, right? So we don't know their working relationship, but they do phenomenal work, all of them.
And from a television production point of view, the best method I remember having when I did live production was you put the talent of your cameramen into their own hands, generally speaking. You give them some direction, but you let them do their thing at the same time, and they'll deliver the goods.
See, and I just find the whole thing remarkable, because there's been a lot of sporting events that I've been fortunate enough to attend and or broadcast. And I would say for the events that I've been to that have flyovers, less than 5% of the time do I actually see the flyover, because I'm distracted by other things. I just can't focus. I know it's coming, but I can't focus.
Well, even, the ones at Mosaic Stadium, I'll be gawking, and then the 1 second I don't look, they go over.
They go over, right? That's me too.
Yeah.
Clutch performer for Glen Suitor, 35 years of experience moving water from a dugout or well without electricity. Visit GlenSuitor.com to find out more for your livestock operation. The Tuesday edition of the Sports Cage is brought to you by Saskatchewan Lotteries, bringing communities together. Saskatchewan Lottery products fund over 12,000 sport, culture, and recreation groups across Saskatchewan. Time to get into Pump Jacks trivia. Giving away some eats from Pump Jacks. A $50 gift card is up for grabs. Start lining up on the phones at 306-936-6262. We kind of hinted at this, Colson.
Did we?
We kind of did.
I missed that too, apparently.
Today with... Wow.
Switch the camera to you, Colson.
Wow.
Colson doesn't like giving himself
airtime.
There he is.
I don't like giving myself camera time. My bad.
See, today is a significant day in Canadian sporting history. If you go back to the Olympic Games in 1998 in Nagano, Japan. And it's a significant day for probably the wrong reasons, as it was on this day in 1998 that a gentleman by the name of... Anybody know who I'm going to call out?
1998 Nagano.
I was too young to remember this, so I can't help here either.
Oh.
Ready? Ross Rebliati made headlines for all the wrong reasons when he was stripped of his gold medal on this day in 1998 after testing positive for marijuana use. The question, what sport did he win gold in? You don't have to answer. We got everybody else. But do you know? Do you remember?
Too much dead air here.
Oh, it's all okay. We're going to go to you next. 306-936-6262. It's Pump Jacks trivia. On this day in 1998, Ross Rebliati made headlines for all the wrong reasons. When he was stripped of his gold medal, what sport did he win gold in? Let us know. Pump Jacks trivia is on. Your chance to win is now. This is the Sports Cage, streaming at sportscage.com and on 620 CKRM. Yeah, and a bunch of big screens to watch the big game no matter what it is. Pump Jacks Cathedral. We've got Ken in Regina on the line. Hey, Ken, are you a big Olympics buff? Do you enjoy following along?
I watch it. I'm not dedicated to it by any means.
Is there a sport outside of hockey that you would watch in the Winter Olympics?
Well, I follow the curling a little bit, and sometimes the ski jumping kind of interests me a little bit.
Okay. Is there a sport you think you could compete in?
Not one of them.
Probably the right answer.
That's ski jumping. Sorry, Ken.
Yeah, I'm old, fat, and tired. That's all I can say.
That ski jumping, they're going over, when they lift off, they're going over 100 kilometers an hour.
Yeah.
That's wow.
That's dedication to the effort. I could see my wife. I think my wife would be very good at the biathlon events, with skiing and shooting, because there's times. There's just times.
She's chasing you around.
I'm just saying there's times. Ken, we don't want to keep you long. We want to get you some food over at Pump Jacks. The question for you today, this day in 1998, one that will live in Canadian infamy, if you will, as it was on this day that Ross Rebliati made headlines for all the wrong reasons when he was stripped of his gold medal. What sport did he win gold in?
I believe it was snowboarding, wasn't it?
You know what? Can I be the judge and jury on this one? It's snowboarding. Yeah, he was actually a giant slalom gold medalist, but you got it. You win. Congratulations.
Oh, great. Awesome. I was just taking a guess, so.
Good guess.
Well, it was a pretty good guess. Well done. And Ken, congratulations. Hang on to the line. Colson will get some more details from you. Pump Jacks Trivia. Of course, we do it every Tuesday here on the Sports Cage. $50 going Ken's way again. The snowboarding event. Giant slalom. And again, was it Ross Rebeliotti? Who was the Canadian? Maybe it wasn't Ross. Remember in 2010, went through the streets of Whistler carrying the beer after he won? It wasn't Ross. It was a different snowboarder, though, wasn't it? Was that
the guy that's now on the CTV show?
Yeah, The Amazing Race, right?
Amazing Race.
What's his name?
He's good on The Amazing Race, by the way. He's a good host.
John?
Yeah.
John Montgomery? Is that it? Colson?
Look it up, Colson.
Oh.
I think it was.
Because he went from that to
John Montgomery.
John Montgomery,
with his famous beer walk.
Very good.
Yeah. Very Canadian. Very Canadian. Congratulations, Ken, and thanks for playing along on Pump Jacks Trivia. Coming up, we still are going to talk to Glen Suitor. Free agency opened in the Canadian Football League today. James Vaughters, former Winnipeg Blue Bomber, is now a Saskatchewan Roughrider. We'll get his take on that and the negotiation window as a whole. That is coming up in just a little bit. Plus, we're going to take a look at the Sports Cage ticker and your sprinkle of the day. All coming up before news time here on the all-new Sports Cage, of course, streaming at sportscage.com and on 620 CKRM. All right, sports ticker time. Western Hockey League regular season 4 games on tap tonight, including the Regina Pats. They're in Prince Albert to take on the Raiders. The Raiders have clinched a playoff spot. The Pats trying to get into one. They trail the Red Deer Rebels by 3 points. You can hear that game starting at 6:30 with Dante DeCaria and his pregame show on 620 CKRM. Also tonight in the Western Hockey League, the Moose Jaw Warriors welcome the Brandon Wheat Kings. Puck drop there is at 7 o'clock. 3 games in the SJHL tonight. Battle Fords taking on Nipawin. LaRange welcomes Warman, while Kindersley travels to Humboldt. And the Prairie Junior Hockey League, the Assiniboia Southern Rebels, they're hosting the Pilot Butte Storm. And a couple of games, in under 18 AAA boys action today. Yorkton home to Estevan, and the Regina Pat Canadians are up at Merlis Belcher Place in Saskatoon to take on the Contacts. Overseas in the Milan Cortina Winter Olympics, the women's hockey team fell to the Americans 5-0 today. While also of note, we were watching for some details on Logan Peltz and Logan's run today at the Moguls. Again, they haven't tabulated everything. They're slow to update things. I don't know if there's a problem with the size of the internet. No, I'm just kidding. That's only the rink. Just kidding. And in under 18 curling championships, of course, so we've got a trio of teams that are taking part there in Timmins, Ontario. In the women's event, Renee Wood from Saskatoon, she won her game this afternoon against Nova Scotia 9-3 to continue her perfect streak at 4-0. While Saskatoon's Quinn Snow won his game this morning over New Brunswick 6-4. Action continues in Timmins, Ontario, with another draw later on starting at 5:30. And that is your sports ticker, brought to you by Extreme Hockey on this Tuesday, the 10th day of February. I'm Dave Thomas. That's Don Hewitt. Colson Schultz is over there. And is it time for the sprinkle of the day for Sports Select? All right. Sprinkle of the day for Sports Select. Getting more of the sports action you want is easy as playing at sportselect.com. Simply make your picks online, generate your QR code, and lock in your bet at your local Lotto Spot retailer. Every bet 100% legal with a chance of winning cash in hand. Sports Select, when you're ready to play, bet on the original. Must be 18 plus to play responsibly. What do we have today for the sprinkle? Lots of NBA going on.
Yeah, I was going to say, where are we going?
There's NBA. I didn't realize until later yesterday that you can go Winter Olympic Games as well.
Yeah, under futures.
Yeah, and that's pretty cool. And it really proves how little I know. But Arash was pretty confident that the men's team would win gold. And you can go with the ice hockey winner, you can go with the most valuable player, you can go with the group winner. And right now, Canada seems to be favored over the U.S. Agree?
And Les Lazaruk was extremely confident that the men in hockey would win. And, one thing, do we have any time to talk?
Oh, we got time for sure.
Just that 4 feet. We discussed it before the show began, that 4 feet short that this hockey rink is in Italy, because they can build a Coliseum, but they can't build a hockey rink, apparently, in Italy. That is going to be a factor in this hockey, because as we know, NHL players have already outgrown the ice size in the NHL. There's times when they can't even get going, let alone 4 feet short. 4 feet is a lot.
Yes, it is.
It's a lot. And it looks like they've squashed the neutral zone to make up for it instead of the blue line into the backboards. They've squashed the neutral zone, and there's going to be no room. It'll be dump and chase.
Yeah.
The women, they can't even get going.
Yes.
It doesn't look like to me in many respects. But there's going to be collisions. It's going to be more physical. It's really sad that they're not playing on Olympic ice.
Yeah.
Let's just put it that way. And it's NHL politics is the reason why they're not playing on Olympic ice. The NHL wanted their ice surface size. They insisted on it or they wouldn't go into the Olympics. They got it, of course.
Yes.
They don't want to see people to see what hockey is going to look like on that Olympic ice with these tremendous skaters and these great players. They don't want people to see it because they really can't change the ice surface on the NHL rinks. It'd be too costly. So they're sticking with their ice size. That's fine. It's too small as it is, but that's fine. But now it's 4 feet shorter.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't exactly know what's going to happen. I think it's possible there could be more injuries with the speed of these players on this size of ice. There's a whole pile of insurance money being paid to NHL teams to insure these players. That's been a problem in the past.
Absolutely.
There's just so many dynamics going on, but that neutral zone, Dave, is tiny.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're spot on. So Canada, U.S. are 1-2 when it comes to favorites with the sprinkle of the day, but you can also go with the MVP. And if I am going to sprinkle and say that Canada is going to win, is there any way that Connor McDavid can't be the MVP of this tournament for them to win?
Oh boy, there's a great question. Right now, I would say no. Yeah, I'd have to say that, it'd be similar to Four Nations, really.
Yeah.
Because what you saw, I thought in Four Nations was Connor McDavid sort of distanced himself a bit from anybody else on the Canadian team, including his good buddy in Colorado, who, could be the MVP in the National Hockey League, but he's not McDavid, and
Nathan MacKinnon is,
MacKinnon is tremendous. He's a great player, but it just seemed like the magic touch was still Connor McDavid, not MacKinnon. So when you first asked that question, I thought MacKinnon maybe, but it's just that Four Nations sort of showed it's still McDavid.
Yeah. Austin Matthews is the third odds-on favorite to win the MVP. I don't know if they haven't watched the Leafs postseason.
This is a terrible thing to say about Austin Matthews, but I think it's good news for Canada that he's the American captain. I think it's sort of the kiss of death. Is it the kiss of death?
Yeah.
For the United States to have Austin Matthews as the captain, when we take a look at how he's done with the Maple Leafs as the captain, I don't know. But I just, let's put it this way. I like our captain a lot more than I like the American captain.
Sprinkle of the day. Get in more of sports action you want. It's easy as going to sportselect.com. Make your picks online. Generate your QR code. Lock in your bet. Of course, you can go to your local retailer as well with the Lotto kiosk and do the old-fashioned way, too, if you want. It's all great, and it all supports Saskatchewan sports. It's Sports Select and the Sprinkle of the Day. We are going to join press coverage and Glen Suitor after the break. It's news time. This is the Sports Cage, streaming at sportscage.com and on 620 CKRM. Final hour of the Sports Cage here on a Tuesday. Dave Thomas filling in for Barney Shankaruk. Don Hewitt, kind enough to join us throughout the course of the afternoon. Colson Schultz is keeping it all together, and he's kind of the glue. He's our glue guy today on the Sports Cage. As we are counting down, of course, to Regina Pats hockey tonight, they take on the Prince Albert Raiders up in PA. That game starts at 7 o'clock. The pregame show here on 620 CKRM is at 6:30. It's also the opening of CFL Free Agency today. A number of players come off the board. The Saskatchewan Roughriders have added James Vaughters, former Winnipeg Blue Bomber, as well as a global linebacker from the Ottawa Red Blacks, which again is going to be a solid addition for the Saskatchewan Roughriders when you consider when all is said and done when it comes to the CFL Free Agency and adding that other global spot. And of course, you look at Tyron Vreddy, and again, it comes with a resume of special teams player, may challenge for a spot in the linebacking core that has now been vacated by CJ Rivas, as well as, not to mention, AJ Allen.
We absolutely, Dave, had to sign somebody from Ottawa to make up for them signing 4 very top players from Saskatchewan.
Very, very true. Well, it's been an interesting day. It's actually been an interesting week. And I don't want to say that the negotiation window period kind of is overshadowing free agency, but it's a definite different look. To find out about that and more, we turn to the expert standing by its press coverage. Pleased to be joined by Glen Suitor on the line. And Mr. Suitor, great to see you.
Oh,
gentlemen, how was your Super Bowl weekend? How did it go?
Well, some of us caught up on some sleep. Others were riveted by a defensive battle. What you say on Super Bowl 60?
Yeah, it was, well, first of all, let me just get right out of the way the thought that people are expecting from me over the last 20, 30 years, which is, my compare and contrast. And when I look at how people react when there is a low-scoring punt-filled game in the Canadian Football League and what the narratives become really quickly across the country, we got to fix this, we got to change that, we got to change the rules, all these things. And yet you watch the Super Bowl and the narrative right after was, wow, that was the best defensive performance I have ever seen.
It's totally true. It's totally true. There's no doubt about it. But it might be changing, Glenn, because the Super Bowl ratings in Canada were reportedly down 20%, where they held strong and firm for the Grey Cup. Now, this could be encouraging news. I guess we'll find out. They're expected to maintain strong ratings in the U.S., but the second year in a row, obviously 2 blowouts. Second year in a row, they're down in Canada for the Super Bowl. And you've got to think about, it wasn't that long ago when the Grey Cup game outdrew the Super Bowl in Canada for viewers. Is there some sort of a small gap narrowing? Are people finally realizing, you know what, that Grey Cup was a hell of a football game. It was so exciting. I was watching Netflix, to be honest, by the fourth quarter. People, are they finally starting to realize this? Is some of the pomp and the pageantry going to give way to the reality of entertainment? There's the question.
Yeah, I hope so. And as I've said, Don, and I know you probably have too, and Dave, you as well, that we don't have to always be comparing them, and it doesn't have to be a competition. You can like both leagues. You can enjoy both games. There is nuance that's different, of course, but at the end of the day, it's throwing and catching, tackling, hitting, blocking, all of the same things. And I've been saying for years and years about the quality of athlete in the CFL. We heard again through a lot of different social media avenues, the pros that have played, like Jeff Garcia, that have played in both leagues and have played at an all-star level in both leagues, that have talked about how close the athlete is between the two leagues. So I just find it, almost amusing now in my stage that narrative immediately happened after the Super Bowl. I mean, it was a good defensive effort, and I, for one, am constantly trying to sell that a good defensive dominated game can be an entertaining game as long as it's close and it's one possession and the fan is on the edge of their seat. Mm-hmm. In our game, it could be a special teams return that blows open the game. It could be, if I often say, if you have a great defensive effort, there's lots to analyze. There's lots to look at. That's an important phase of the game and crucial when you talk about our final 3 minutes. Our final 3 minutes, it's mandatory that the defense, if you're the team behind, gets the 2 and out. So you get another possession. It all works together. And I've been trying to sell good defensive games for a long time. But the narrative after the Super Bowl immediately became the best defensive effort in Super Bowl history. I would disagree with going that far with it. I think that was the best defense in the league, in the NFL, so we shouldn't be surprised they played great in Seattle. And I also saw a quarterback that is, 23 years old in Drake May, and he had at times lots of time to throw. He had at times swing passes, checkdowns, screens that were open and he missed. sometimes when there's a blitzer, you have to understand that the quarterback is responsible for the blitzer, and there's a hot route designed in the play to get the ball out of his hands before that blitzer can come free. So what you saw was a combination of a very good defense in the Super Bowl, playing excellent. Don't want to take anything away from them, but also a very inexperienced quarterback that was out of his element and seeing, it was like he was standing in the middle of the freeway and the cars were flying by him and he was just frozen until midway through the fourth quarter, guys, when I thought, when he took off and ran a couple of times and he looked like he was starting to settle in, and I thought, man, that should have happened in quarter one. A lot of RPO stuff, run game, and then get him running the ball outside and get him to relax and run around and then just start throwing it off for play action. I thought that was the way that the Patriots would be successful offensively. Seattle didn't allow it, but it was a combination of great defensive play and a really inexperienced quarterback in the big game that just got deer in the headlights and was, there's very few games and almost no championships, but very few games that I've covered that I thought one team cannot win. The Super Bowl was one of them.
And the narrative if that was the Grey Cup game would be, look, the CFL doesn't have enough good quarterbacks.
Yes, we don't have good quarterbacks. We've got to change the rules. How about we play 13 guys on offense and 12 guys on defense? Hey, why don't we let's get rid of all the Canadians. All the Canadians are the problem here. Let's, it's this hamster wheel. And I got that out of the way. I was watching the telecast too. I thought the telecast was excellent. They have a lot of resources too that they lean on, but it comes down to, you guys, I heard you talking about camera angles and the flyover with the jets and, those shots, being in the truck and listening to the truck operate for TSN all these years, the director and cameraman and working together. I mean, I would put our group against anybody. That flyover is very difficult to nail because if you cut to it too early, you're just looking at the sky for what feels like 5 minutes. If you snap if the cameraman snaps his angle around quickly, you get seasick on the way over. Yeah. And then once it's up there, guys, it can go by so quickly, especially when you get the F-35s and those jets that go flying through there so quickly. You don't want to be chasing it either. So it's really tough to nail. But for the most part, I heard you talking about, Don, who makes the call. For the most part, the director trusts that the cameramen, through their meetings and through their experience, they trust that they know, what's coming and what they're expecting. But the director will still make the call. The director will be in there, because I've heard them in live mics and the director saying, hey, make sure you get the shot. Like, be ready to go to the jet or whatever. Or we need to see the quarterback in a tight shot. Hey, there's a guy crying in the anthem. Get over there, camera 5. Like, it is amazing the coordination that goes on in a truck in a live television game.
Sometimes a good director will listen to the cameraman. The odd time a cameraman will say, look, here's what I got. Okay, let's go. They can the communication can go the other way if the director is strong and will listen to the people in the field.
You guys remember the game that was postponed because of the smoke and stuff in Saskatchewan, and during that long wait and break, I jumped on a camera. I was messing around, and I put the headset on, and I got our game camera, and I found out in about 30 seconds how difficult it is to even keep a shot steady. Like our director said to me at the time, he goes, hey, there's a fan in the end zone with a really cool hat. Go find him. So now I'm over there looking through the camera lens, and the camera's kind of shaking around, and it's like you'd be seasick, and I'm trying to find him, and I can't find him, and he goes, he's right there, he's just below, and he's trying to describe where he is. I'm like, wow, this is, and when the play is moving full speed, and returners and blockers, and it is, those guys are great, man. Those guys are very good at what they do.
Such an underrated skill, and the one thing I know for sure is that directors just really appreciate the veteran, solid cameramen, because the camera just becomes an extension of their arms and hands and eyes. It becomes part of their of them as they're they're all it's all in one, and I can't, in the limited directing I've done nothing like a Grey Cup, but how many times a good cameraman will bail out a director.
Well, and remember, guys, in a Grey Cup, I mean, I'm not sure how many cameras they have in the Super Bowl, but I think we're pretty close. And in a Grey Cup, I think we're getting up towards 50 cameras. And now you're talking about decisions and a wall of monitors that you're looking at to make decisions as to what the fan is going to see. And it is, like I said, I put our crew against anybody. I think they're the best in the world.
And a good director, from what I've seen, is like a surgeon. Very quiet, composed, concentrating. Just that absolute concentration that a good director will have. Just, if you're on an operating table, that's what you're hoping your surgeon's doing too.
Well, and don't even get me into what the spider cam guy is doing, right? Because that's going to be a whole new ball game.
Different crew, like two separate guys handling that. Yeah.
That's cool.
Back to the game for a moment, Glenn. You just kind of tweaked me when you were talking about the scheme that Seattle employed. Now, it wasn't a Glen Suitor safety blitz that they were using. They were using some intricate packages. But you talked about the quarterback scrambling. And back, like, isn't that a defense deflator? Like, you've got seemingly everything locked down, and then in your day, Matt Dunnigan or Damon Allen or Tracy Hammer or somebody all of a sudden takes off. Isn't that just a way to deflate the defense?
Yeah, the downside to it is that you cut the field in half. So basically, you're taking one or sometimes two receivers out of the plan because your quarterback is on the full roll, especially if he's going to his left. It's almost impossible and frowned upon to try and throw it back against the grain. But what it does do is it gives a young guy the option. It gets him outside and away from pressure. You can bring in a back and a tight end in the NFL to make sure you're solid on the edge, so you get your quarterback outside of that containment. And once he's outside, the blitz is neutralized, because now the blitzers are just in a chase position, and the DBs out in that open field are now looking at, I've got my guy covered, but if I leave to help tackle the quarterback here, then I might leave him open. And if I stay back here, he might run. And Drake May can run. So it would have done two things. It would have got him outside and away from some of that pressure. It would have settled his nerves, because I'm sure they were winning. The self-doubt was winning. He wasn't sure what he was seeing. I could see it in his face. He wasn't comfortable. He was, looking at probably guys just flashing in front of him, and looking at the rush probably too much too. So it gets you outside, it settles you down. You can run and use your legs and athletic ability, and then you might pop someone open deep because a defensive back decides to leave to come and help tackle you, and you're still behind the line of scrimmage, can still throw it. So I expected to see them do that more. They did a little in the fourth quarter, and I thought, okay, it looks like he's getting a little bit more comfortable, but they're out of time, and I don't think there's a chance, and for this team to come back in this game.
As always, we don't have tons of time with Glen Suitor, because I could bend your ear. I would love to sit with you in a telestrator for an hour if you'd ever give me that opportunity. But then again, I wouldn't want to put that upon you. But was there a quarterback back in the day when you were game planning for someone that okay, I got a real worry about this guy taking off all the time? Was there one guy that you had to worry about all the time that struck fear, if you will, in your week of preparation?
Well, Doug Flutie, playing against Doug Flutie was just, I mean, I can't tell you how many times Bobby Jurison cursed at the top of his lungs, just yelling in the huddle. I can't catch that, and I won't say the names he was calling him. But he was just so frustrating because he wasn't like Damon Allen in sort of a Sally Rand bootleg type of guy. He was, I can retreat and throw just arm on a deep ball. I can be on one foot running to my left and throw a deep ball. Doug Flutie could make all the throws on the field, even back against the grain throws, with accuracy, even though he was fading away without any real good passing technique. And that was impossible to chase. So we'd actually run, we called it a fire blitz, where we would send two more than they could block, thinking we'll just full on blitz them, leave 4 DBs back there. I was one of the blitzers, and let's get to him before he can get out of his hands. And he would drift away from you, and it would be like just out of your reach to sack him. Yeah. And then he'd throw a deep ball for a post. And you were like going, oh my God, we can't stop this guy.
Yeah. So frustrating. So phenomenal frustrating. I wanted to ask, though, before we run out of time, who do you like in CFL Free Agency in terms of who picked up who? We were talking about the Ottawa Red Blacks. They look like a much improved team. What's your impression so far of free agency and what's happened, Glenn?
Well, first of all, the two teams that really focused on re-signing their own players were Saskatchewan and BC. Both those teams, and that shouldn't be a surprise to anyone because that was a West final that went right down to the wire. And, you could argue two of the best teams in the league in that West final. And Saskatchewan then ends up winning it and going and winning championship. So when you're a championship team, you want to keep your core together. Ottawa was the most aggressive. Obviously, that's easy. I know you guys have talked about that. A couple of the impactful signings, I would say that I think are going to be guys that can really change a team quickly. AJ Allen is going to really help. That's a big one. I think it's a big loss for Saskatchewan, but it's, I think, an even bigger gain in Ottawa to have him there. Aiden Eberhardt, definitely on the rise, that guy. I thought. Yeah. And here's a couple that, I know Tommy Neild was one I think people wanted in Saskatchewan to stay. It'd be interesting to see his input or what he can accomplish with Zach in Winnipeg. And the other one is that I'm really interested in is Tim White. Tim White, we talked about it a couple weeks ago, but Tim White has been sort of inconsistent and yet 1,000-yard receiver. It's like it's like we've talked about him as if he's been struggling, and he has been. He's had games where he's dropped 2 or 3 passes in one game. And then you go and look, wait a minute, he's got 1,200 yards. Yeah. How did that happen from a guy who wasn't playing great? Mm-hmm. So I'm interested to see with a new look and a new team and, all of that, what Tim White can accomplish. I think that's a big and impactful signing. Guys left that are interesting to me, Dom Rhymes, Charleston Rambo, I think, is still out there. Sean Thomas Erlington is an interesting one as a backup running back, and Braylon Addison. Now, I just checked just before we came on the CFL website, so if any of those guys signed while we were talking, I apologize, but that could easily happen.
Yeah. For sure. Suits, appreciate this again. Before I let you go, I do have to ask and maybe reminisce a moment on Barry Wilburn, of course, a former teammate of yours, passed away tragically in a house fire over the weekend. Again, he left his impact on Rider Nation for sure.
Yeah, just real sad news when I read it. He was a teammate. When I think of Barry Wilburn arriving in Saskatchewan and watching his, drills in practice, his professionalism. Here's a guy that was the defensive player of a Super Bowl in Washington and then came up and played with us. And, I'll give you 2 quick stories. One, to show his competitiveness, when he came off the field after a loss, whether we won or lost, the equipment staff would put together plastic cups with beverages in them. And they were on the table just so you could just grab one as you came in. Win or lose, we had that on the table. It was full of some, adult beverages at times. And we'd walk off, and Barry Wilburn, after a loss, I believe it was to Calgary, he saw this and I was right behind him, and he swiped at every one of these beers and knocked them off the table. He was so upset that we had lost. And, I don't think doing those kind of things always is a show of competitiveness, but when you combine it with how he practiced and how he played and how he prepared, there was no question that this guy hated losing. Like, he hated it. And one other quick story. We were in Edmonton, and Gizmo Williams was playing wide receiver at the time, and Barry Wilburn was covering him. So in a lot of our coverages as a safety, I was asked to help out the short side of the field. So if Gizmo was on the short side wide out position, it was my job to help the short side slot, the short side wide out, and to the field slot back. So those three receivers, I had to be deep as the deepest of those and helping on any deep routes in man coverage. Barry Wilburn, early in the game against Edmonton, looked at Gizmo Williams as a receiver, and he said to me in the huddle, "Do not worry about this guy." Okay?
Yeah, I believe it.
I am going to lock this guy down. And he and Narco, by the way, would battle in practice. It was worth the price of admission to watch them battle. But he said, "I'm going to lock down Gizmo so you can help the other guys." Okay, so I did that. I trusted my teammate. And sure enough, early third quarter, I believe, Gizmo runs a post. I'm not back there where I'm supposed to be because I'm helping other guys.
Yeah.
And he scores a touchdown. So we're sitting on the bench, and Barry Wilburn comes over, and I had got an earful from the coach and didn't say anything. I didn't, I just said, "I hear you. I hear you, coach. I'll be back there. I promise. I saw something, and Barry sits down beside me, and he goes, "Thanks, man, for doing that." But he goes, "There are so many really good players in this league."
Yeah.
And I thought Barry, who was a defensive player of a Super Bowl, I said, "Barry, say that on camera. Say that." Because, there's a lot of people that don't understand it. Jeff Garcia said it too. But he did a great job on Gizmo the rest of the game. He just gave up that one touchdown. And I thought, Barry comes to the sideline and he's like, "Okay, these guys are good too."
And Barry's athleticism was just, I remember watching Barry in practice and in games as well. Just his athleticism was just off the charts.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Closing speed, Don, like you've never seen. Like a player could come out of his break and he'd be behind by 4 or 5 yards, and Barry would catch up. But just terrible loss. My heart goes out to his family and friends and all his teammates. And I saw the news, and it just was upsetting because he was a great teammate, just a guy you could sit beside who had NFL experience and great respect for our game, like Garcia and those guys. And yeah, it's a tough loss, but was a great human being.
Glen Suitor,
in a lot of ways.
Appreciate it once again. We'll do this again later this week. Thanks so much for your time. And again, now we can go back on the website and find out who signed again.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I got to keep updating that, you guys.
Yeah.
And hey, and the next time we have a field goal or a punt fest in the CFL, let's take notice as to what everyone's saying about it.
There you go. Done deal. Glen Suitor in press coverage here on the Sports Cage on a Tuesday. Coming up, we're going to go ahead and hear from Les Lazaruk, the voice of the Saskatoon Blades, before we get to 6 o'clock. That's on the way, your sports ticker and more. This is the Sports Cage, streaming at sportscage.com and on 620 CKRM. Voice of the Saskatoon Blades, Les Lazaruk, joins us in a moment. The voice of the Regina Pats, Dante DeCaria, getting set to call the game tonight with the Pats and the Raiders. That starts at 6:30 here on 620 CKRM. That's one of 4 games of the WHL today. 3 games in the SJ tonight, 1 in the Prairie Junior Hockey League and in the Saskatchewan Under-18 AAA Boys League. The Regina Pat Canadians are in Saskatoon to take on the Contacts. Overseas at the Milan Cortina Winter Olympics, the women's hockey team fell to the U.S. 5-0 today. Canada sitting at 3 medals after winning a short track speed skating event today. They've got 1 silver and 2 bronze. And that is your Sports Cage ticker, brought to you by Steelcraft Doors. We're going to have Les Lazaruk on the radio in a moment. This is the Sports Cage, streaming at sportscage.com and on 620 CKRM.